What's going on, guys? We're going for the Halo 3 skulls in this video. There are quite a few, not as many as in Halo 2, which had 15, but there are still several, each with their own achievement, and then one for a cumulative achievement once you get them all. There's two on Sierra 117, which is the first mission of the game. First one, you'll come to this area where there's a elite brute up on the far right. There's a bunch of grunts on the ground. A phantom will then drop in and drop off more grunts. Instead of progressing to the left where the Arbiter was just looking, we're going to go to the right and go onto the rock to pick up the skull. Later on in Sierra 117, this is right towards the end of the mission, in that building right below me where the Arbiter's right outside, that is where Johnson gets captured, spoiler alert. Before or after letting out Johnson, we will go to the end of the bridge, hop up to the rafters where I went, follow it all the way around, and then in this corner is the Iron Skull, so you want to pick it up. Most of the achievements popped right after picking up the skull. There was one later on, the convoluted, really complex one, that I had to go back and pick up the skull and make sure the achievement pops. So you just want to make sure you hold on to the skull until the achievement pops, just in case. Very beginning of the crow's nest, before we progress at all through the story, we're going to go up to that box, jump up onto the rafters carefully, jump up to the pipe, and then follow that all the way to the end to pick up the Black Eye Skull. Also on Crow's Nest is the Grunt Birthday Party Skull. Right after the section where the drones ambush the Marines and you have to fight them off, we will come to this area, we'll drop down to this pipeline where there will be more drones. I was playing on Legendary, so I had to be a little careful because they are tricky to engage. The natural progression of the story wants us to drop all the way down to the pipe down to my right. Instead of doing that, we're going to try to inch over the side, and when we're starting to fall, push back into the alcove so we can land in here to pick up the skull prior to dropping down to where we have to go. Next one is the Tough Luck Skull on Sabo Highway. It's the only one on this level. After the first barrier, we're going to either take a Warthog. You can walk it, which is what I was contemplating because I was playing on Legendary, so it didn't look like the Warthog was going to survive, so I didn't want to really go back for it, but it did end up being cleared. So I went back for the Warthog, which is preferable because you don't really want to walk as much. About halfway through the bridge, we're going to drop down here, go to the first pillar. Be careful jumping around that pillar because you can knock your left shoulder onto it and fall down to your death, or fall to your death. I managed to get in on my first try this time, but when Halo 3 first came out, I do remember messing that up once or twice. It can be a tricky jump. Towards the beginning of the storm mission, we are going for the Catch Skull. This one can be a little tricky. We need a Warthog, which you see me picking up here, or we need some other obstacle to stand on because the skull is on top of that dome building out to the right. The anti-air wraith you need to keep there, otherwise the skull will disappear. So you're going to use the Warthog or some other cover, something to jump up there. I've seen people talking about using a co-op partner, which might work, but you just need something to get up there. Now I was confused because the skull wasn't there, and I had to check to make sure the tank was still there, which it was, but luckily I was able to walk around a little bit and have the skull show up. It might be time-based or something like that, I'm not really sure. But just, if it doesn't show up, just as long as the tank's there, you should be good. Very, very, very beginning of Floodgate mission. There's going to be a flood up here holding the skull. He'll jump across the chasm there. You want to shoot him at the perfect time, right when he's about to jump. If you shoot too late, he'll make it across or drop the skull on the fence out to the left. If you shoot too early and kill him too early, he'll just drop the skull on the roof and you won't be able to get it, so you want to time that perfectly. If you mess it up, just reload the chapter/checkpoint and try it again. This one is the Famine Skull. It is on the Ark. This is natural progression through the story. We're supposed to come this way to clear the LZ to drop off a bunch of tanks. Also where Johnson's Pelican will be. He will escort the tank dropping. It's almost like the Foehammer ship. It's a massive ship, you'll know. Prior to going up it's up the hill where I was just driving the chopper. And instead of going up the hill, we're going to stop at the rocks. Jump onto the rocks, jump up here, up to what looks like where you actually bring the tanks, but it is not. It's a similar structure. I actually thought a couple times, going off of memory, that it was where the Oracle opens the door after you drive the tank back, but it is not. It is in this halfway section. I've seen a few methods to do this. Some people use deployable shields to then jump onto to get up here, but I figured that the grenade jump works just fine. You just kind of have to bank it up against the wall. If you throw it straight away or straight ahead of you while trying to jump ahead, the grenade might fall down, you won't make the jump. Now this one later on the arc is the Cowbell. You saw right there I picked up the deployable man lift, or lift, the deployable lift, whatever they are. You will need that. I believe that's the only location that you can find it. And then you will come to this area later on after taking out the scarab. Natural progression, you will come through this door, this room, just as an indicator. There's a bunch of grunts. Then when you come down this ramp, we're going to put the manual lift down towards the bottom, not exactly at the bottom, and towards the bottom of the lift, or the bottom of the ramp, sorry, and we will use it to get up to the very top alcove to get the skull. This is one of the trickier ones. If you don't remember to grab the lift, you will not be able to get that at all. Next one is the Thunderstorm, sorry. It is kind of towards the beginning of the level. There are 3 towers to deactivate. You'll go to the first one, Arbiter will go to the second one, and Johnson will go to the third one, but he will mess up. So if you're doing the story, you're going to go to the first one and then go to the third one. To get the skull, and there's also a terminal there, we're going to want to fly to the second tower. There's nothing really to do there other than to grab the skull and the terminal. Now this is the tricky one. This is I would have been your daddy's skull. This is towards the very end of the Covenant level. There are 7 rings here. The first one is towards where the end of the level is. The 7th one is where the bridge is activated, where, spoiler alert, the Arbiter kills the Prophet. What we're gonna do is activate the bridge. We will then watch the cutscene. I suggest clearing out all the flood afterwards, and then we'll jump through the rings. The order of the rings that you have to jump through, as I mentioned, they're 1 through 7 in the order I said. You will want to jump through 4, 6, 5, 4, 5, 3, 4. And once you do, the rings will all blink, as I will show. And once they are all blinking, you will go down to where the bridge was, where the Prophet was slain, and your skull will be sitting right at the beginning of the bridge, which I will show right here. Now, this is the one that I picked up, and I figured the achievement would pop, but it did not, so I had to go back. When I noticed that the achievement didn't pop, I had to go back and pick it up to make sure that the achievement popped. So a few of them can be tricky. This might be the only one. But yeah, that's the tricky one. That takes the longest, especially because you have to clear out all the flood. Next one is on the level Cortana. It is the Tilt Skull. This is the same room that has the Coins Vault terminal. If you've seen that, this room has a bunch of those transforming floods. Most of them are in what I will call the Hulk form. A few of them are in the shooting form. You will want to, I prefer clearing them out before trying this jump. I showed you where some of the ammo was. This is natural progression through the story. You'll come to this room no matter what. After clearing everybody out, we'll jump onto that, jump up to these flood balconies, I'll call them. And the skull is actually on the top of that purple structure out here. So we will get on top of the purple structure, pick up our skull, and we're all set. And finally, at the very, very, very beginning of the Halo mission, in the first alcove is where the skull is. Second alcove to the right has the terminal. Before going to that, we want to pick up our skull in the first alcove. There's nothing else in there. It's just a little windy path to the skull. So once you pick it up, you will get that. If you're following the guide, you'll also get the achievement for all of them. And good luck and happy hunting.